So
How about this?
yeah.
How about this? Since I think you've used it the most, Kostya, then I'm in between, and then David's never used it. So here's an interesting question, David. What have been the prejudices that have held you back from even venturing in to that strange new Zoomer chess tool that is Chessable?
Possible. I think it's just that, like, what I would look for on Chessable would be like the same thing I would look in like a good chess book. And maybe there's other types of Chessable stuff that like I just don't even know about that would be like great. But if I went on Chessable, it would be to like get an experience that like captures some of the best books that I've read. It would be something like, the chess lessons on chess.com that like Silman put up. Positional like puzzles, like he's got a course with like 300, positional questions in a row. I found that extremely useful. I got like almost everything wrong as like 2400 the first time I worked on that course. I mean, well over 50% wrong. It was just like mind-boggling and interesting to me. To some extent, that's a little bit similar to a book, except that there's like feedback put in advance for like likely things you would get wrong, to a degree that it isn't in like chess books. Usually, like chess book solutions don't often tell you like, here are the like 5 mistakes that people most often get, and here's why you got this mistake or something like that. They usually just give the right answer, maybe cover one alternative. But anyway, that's probably what I would be looking for. And the fact is, I've got all these great books I haven't finished reading at home. So I've never gotten to a point where I was like, I need to go on like Chessable to find new material. So, I'm working through this, Jesse. Mm-hmm. And after this, Knight Endgames by Averbach, I'm going to do Queen Endgames. That's going to keep me busy for like 3 years.
Okay.
So, I mean,
all right.
I don't know that there's anything on Chessable that's going to be better for me than learning Knight Endgames and Queen Endgames over the course of 3 years. And if there is something that, you would think would be better for me, I'd love to hear about it. And I can try and guess if it would be or not, or I could try it out. But right now it's basically like, there's so much material and I've just never finished the stuff that I had to work on. I've got my own games to annotate, right? I want to go play in more tournaments, and I want to do like puzzles, like tactics now and then to stay sharp. So I've just never reached the point where I wanted to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, fair enough. And yeah, so Chessable does have all kinds of courses. Like they don't just do opening courses. They have regular books that they've just converted to their format. And then they also have a lot of courses that you could call them like strategy courses or endgame courses, or just like a collection of instructive positions. And I think it's not so much about their software, like the spaced repetition. I just think it's just good material that is useful for people, similar to like the Silman lessons on chess.com. But that makes sense. If someone told me that the only way I'm allowed to study is by reading chess books, I would lose very little sleep over that. I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's fine. There's plenty of books to read. So definitely not necessary. I think Chessable is really cool. I'm actually working or finishing up my own course on Chessable on Endgame Studies, which I'm hoping will be useful for folks, just kind of like an intro guide to solving endgame studies and showing some of like the basic endgame puzzles. My criticism of Chessable, I think, is more of how people tend to use it. I'm definitely not a fan of just drilling openings for the sake of remembering the moves. I think that's one of the least useful things someone could do. And it gets less and less useful the lower rated you are. Now, if someone is using Chessable because, they want to solve tactics. So the thing is, you can't really judge Chessable because they have all kinds of courses and material on there. It's really on how someone uses it. But yeah, I much prefer the endgame courses they have, or the tactics or strategy. And then the opening courses themselves, I think, are of good quality. I'm just not a believer in doing the repetition for the sake of memorizing moves. And I've used Chessable quite a bit. And similar to like online trainers, it definitely pushes you to just click next and get to the next one and get to the next one and not sit and stop and think about a position. And I think that is something that I would really encourage people to do. Like when you're working through a course and the author has included a lot of notes in the solution, play through the notes, read through them. Don't just go to like next puzzle, next puzzle, next puzzle, and just trying to get through it. So it is kind of, I think, driving people to just want to just finish, just like get some progress done because they've like gamified it. So there's a ton of, I think, really instructive material on there, but it comes down to how people use the site and whether they, in my opinion, use it in the most effective way or not. So Jesse, how about you?
Well, okay, so I've dabbled in the Chessable, and I'm interested in two ways, both as a player, like will it help me, and also just a question of like, since books are on their way out, and that's just a painful truth that anyone of my generation has to acknowledge, since books are on their way out, what new platforms are going to be created to communicate knowledge, say, about chess? And Chessable's been the one kind of newfangled product where at least you got a lot of people excited about it. That's obviously gamified it. At the moment, I don't yet see okay, so for example, I need to revamp my own opening. So I went in there and I did some work. And, did I pass, did I get to a point where I could regurgitate everything? Kind of, but in a hilarious thing, I'm going over the games last term, there was a position in there that I had, but I couldn't actually remember the line because when it throws it at you, you don't know where it comes from. You remember the moves, but you don't know how you got there, So that was kind of a funny fail on that score. And yeah, I mean, I think I also, as somebody who's interested maybe in producing content, I want to have something where I can reach the people who are now consuming chess content, and I don't really want to write a book because no one's really reading books now. So I'm really interested, and I'm going to continue to do it. But for example, say with just the openings, I'm gonna focus on studying my own games, and then if I have time before the next tournament, I'll do what I did before, which is kind of like work on the opening repertoire right before the tournament. And I'm just really giving it a go. I don't like studying openings that much, honestly. So gamifying it has a personal benefit for me in that sense. And that, at least then it kind of forces me to do it. And also as someone, I think, and other people I'm sure have this problem, it's like, once you get to be a certain level, I think, you don't want to just copy someone else's repertoire. So like if I buy some course, I'm just going to be using their moves. And as a user, I found it very difficult to alter their moves and make my own file out of it. It's probably possible to do, but I couldn't figure it out. Even altering my own file, I found very difficult. So that was, it's like once you create the file becomes ossified into its own structure. And, when I did it too, I created my own files on ChessBase, put it in there, and then gamified my learning of those lines, So I don't know. Jury's still out. I would like it to be a cool new way to produce chess content, because the book is over, and if Chessable isn't going to do it, then I'm hoping somebody else comes up with something new and exciting to do it.
Yeah, definitely a cool format. And if I have a student that's reading a book via Chessable versus physical, no issues with that, right? If that's their preferred way of reading, or if they want to do Kindle or forward chess, I'm totally cool with that. So.
And you've done a lot, Kostya. I looked you up over there, buddy. You got a lot of XP. You got a lot of points.
Well, that's probably from Woodpecker Method, because I did that book on Chessable.
I see.
Okay. Which is really fun. And the gamification aspect, I should say, like, I'm a fan of that. Like, whatever gets you to do more chess, cool. And I think that's one of the strengths of the Woodpecker Method, is that it just gives you a container. It's like, all right, your next month of training is going to look like this. You're doing these problems, and then you're going to do them again, and then you're going to do them again. And it's like you're done. You don't have to stress, like, am I doing the right problems? Am I doing the right, the format here? Should I be thinking longer or less? It's just like your training regiment is set, which is cool. And then you can feel good as you go through it. But you have to enjoy the work. I think you have to take pleasure from like doing the puzzles and grinding and drilling and learning the ideas like that. I think has to be enjoyable. If it's something that you're just getting through, like you just got to get through your Chessable for the day, I don't know how useful that's going to be in the long run.
Okay, guys, so we're trying to evaluate these tools to some extent, right? And Jesse wants to say, is there something like missing? So you've used Chessable, like, you know, if you had to make a declarative statement, like Chessable is worse than books or better than books or equal to books as like a way of learning chess ideas, right? What would you say?
I would say it's worse, but it's a new technology, and it, you know, could it evolve into something amazing? Maybe. And I think it's better for some things than others. Like Kostya put that out there. I'm sure that's true. And the main thing people use it for, openings, I definitely think is over the top. Like when you, David, I'm telling you, man.
But the main thing that people use books for is also openings. Like
Yeah,
those
but
aren't the
check
books
it
that
out.
you read, but
It's a new world, David. Trust me. I got these students, and they're like playing at a 1600 level on chess.com, and they have got 2900 openings because they've been doing Chessable like freaks. Does it win them a lot of games? No, but you can see it. You can see it in the moves that these people are making. You know, they're going to hang a piece very soon, but their Chessable skills, amazing.
To answer your question, David, I do think Chessable is better. I mean, I think you can get as good as you can possibly get with chess books alone, but the advantage that Chessable has over books is that, well, number one, they can simply import books into their platform. So they can import all the classic books and then have extra material. The other cool thing is that courses can be edited. So if an author makes a mistake or wants to add some notes or add some puzzles, you can just edit the course and everyone get, you know, you can't edit your chess books, obviously, like get new material. But yeah, there is the question as well as like, can you get to the deep think online? If that's no issue for you, then to me, I think there are ultimately no fundamental issues with Chessable. I think it's just a great platform. But for many players, it's hard to get to that deep mode of thinking without working on something over the board. So that's always going to be kind of in the background as well. But
to me, just listening to you two describe it, I just don't see what the disadvantage would be over, like, you know, the way that we studied with books 20 years ago. It just seems like it includes that and then some new features.
Well, as long as you can avoid the trap of, you know, just playing your next move quickly to get to the solution. As long as you're not rushing to answer, not rushing through the material, because books are very, you know, unrewarding in the present. You just have to kind of enjoy it yourself. But once you do it, if you enjoy reading, I mean, I enjoy reading, so for me, it is its own reward. Like, I love having time to just sit down with a chess book. So yeah, that's the trap. If you can avoid getting into that instant gratification space with Chessable, then I think you're good.